Dr. Elsbeth Muth and Freddy Zentel-Weaver are the authors of Sexual Enlightenment, How to Create Lasting Fulfillment in Life, Love, and Intimacy. They are the founders and directors of the Tantra Nova Institute in Chicago, offering workshop retreats throughout North America, Europe, and Australia, and the producers of the best-selling DVD series, Creating Intimacy and Love. They were featured on Showtime's documentary series, Sexual Healing, and the Emmy Award-winning NBC show, Starting Over. And so without further ado, I invite Elsbeth and Freddy up to our podium. Thank you. God bless. Thank you. God bless you. Well, before we start, I wonder if there's anything you'd like to say to this wonderful group of individuals, and you may need to turn your mics on. Excuse me for that, for overlooking that.
I think it's working. Hello? Testing, testing.
Testing.
Well, thank you for having us here today. It was a great beginning morning. Thank you. So we're pleased to be here to share what we're up to. So thanks for your attention. Thank you.
I have a few questions that I'd like to run by you, if you don't mind, and I put them somewhere where I wouldn't forget them, and I've forgotten them. So we're gonna kind of freelance it here a little bit, if you don't mind. I tend to do that every now and then. But I was wondering if you could share a little bit with us about sexual enlightenment and what does I think I know what those words mean, and yet I don't know what those words mean. So,
right.
So can you help me?
Yes, thank you so much for the
You're welcome.
question, because that's really the $64 million question. How come that sexuality or sexual and enlightenment are in one phrase? Traditionally and historically over the millennia, sexuality and spirituality didn't belong together, However, and we are not talking here about now bringing the bedroom into the church or the mosque or the temple. However, within ourselves, we are this temple where we are a human, physical, sexual, and spiritual being, always have been. And when we look at an infant, we can actually witness that because they are totally one with themselves. When they move, the spine moves freely, there is no stuckness anywhere. They don't get stuck in emotions. For example, the baby may be hungry, so she cries, and then she gets the breast, and then she's happy again, and she looks at the mobile. And then she smiles at you. And then she may cry again. But she doesn't live in a world of, oh my gosh, my mom is really bad because she didn't give me the breast when I was crying right away. She doesn't live in these assessments that have us get so stuck. So this is what we call that connection and unity, wholeness within, that in the course of growing up and living our lives, we forget about. And so our job, Freddy Zental's and my job in life, we have chosen this to be our job, our dedication, is to remind ourselves within and with each other and remind others of their wholeness. And wholeness has to do with coming back to our sexual energy that is life force. Without it, none of us would be sitting here in the sanctuary. And to connect with that energy and setting our life force free so that this energy can move through us and inform our spiritual self, as well as the spiritual self can inform my sexual self. And then they have this dance together. And when I'm in my own dance harmonious, I can dance much better with my beloved. You know, when I'm disconnected here, I'm probably most likely disconnected with my beloved as well, and with other people. So we want to share with you, you know, what that means, and also clear out a few things that we may have inherited from the past around our sexual energy that may impede the flow to come into our wholeness.
Thank you. Thank you. And I was, go ahead, Freddy, did you have something you wanted to add?
We're kind of, I've got a lot, but please, we want to go back and forth, so.
Okay, great. I was, what I would like to do too, you know, when I first read the idea of hosting a workshop around sexual energy and sexuality, one of my first thoughts was, what are they going to make us do? So I'm relatively enlightened, but for the benefit of these folks, maybe you can give us a synopsis of what to expect at the workshop. Can you do that?
Yeah, sure. I want to just tell you a little bit about how I came to do this. I'm 58 years old now. Well, when I was going through my puberty, my father's a psychiatrist, and he took pity on me all the time I was spending in the showers. And he gave me a book on sexual consciousness, how to integrate meditation with self-loving. And I loved it. You know, I was full of energy then, and I loved it then, and I was able to transcend some of the lust, the selfish love, and the unconsciousness, so that when I was ready to have a relationship with a woman, I was very conscious and respectful and very tender and present. So in the work we do, and in the book, and what we've been doing in the last 14 years in Chicago with Tantra Nova Institute, are sharing practices that assist people in learning ways to tap into their sexual energy in a conscious way. If you think, again, this energy, without it we wouldn't be here. It was creating life before we were aware of our own existence as thinking Homo sapiens. So, and the kernel of that energy, the essence of that energy is creativity. It creates life, and pleasure. When we're in it, it's pleasurable. When we bring consciousness to this energy, and we've been doing this all over the world now with thousands of couples and individuals, what starts to show up is creativity and pleasure in areas of life that seem completely unrelated to sex in the simple process of living. So it's a creative energy, and that's the intelligence of that energy. So we want to elevate the conversation so that we can move beyond a lot of the shame and the fear and the unconsciousness that we have around it. And so that's what we've been up to. And that's a little bit, we're going to keep building on that. But
excellent.
Back and forth.
And so what can we expect in the workshop?
Okay,
Yes.
so you're going to take off your clothes.
Cool.
No, really, no.
Okay,
yeah.
Let me just build a little bit on that. And not on the taking clothes off
Relax,
part, but and we can bring it actually, what we teach in the workshop, let's have it be right here. Because I know there are a couple of people who will not be able to come to the workshop. If you can come, please do, because we go much more into depth of what we are, giving you a taste of here. So there are three major aspects we want to get more engaged with. And one aspect you actually already had us be in when you did the guided meditation, yes. Which is the conscious breath. So we breathe all the time. It's part of our wiring, biological wiring. We don't have to think about, I have to breathe right now. No, it always goes in and out when we sleep, when we are awake. Most of that kind of breathing is more in our upper torso, in the chest. Mm-hmm. We want to start breathing into the belly, because when we breathe into the belly, then the parasympathetic nervous system gets activated. And that is the nervous system that, controls our heartbeat and our breathing rhythm and makes us feel good. It activates endorphins and serotonin. So we want to become of that conscious breath. The second one, the second aspect, is to become aware of the witness state of mind. So for example, if you want to close your eyes for a moment and exhale all air, then take in a deep breath and fill your belly like a big balloon. And on the exhalation, send the breath down and out of your base into the seat that you're sitting on. And then take in a deep breath again, filling the belly like a big balloon. If you wish to put your hand on your belly, do so. And on the exhalation, visualize sending the breath down and out of your base into the seat. Let's do one more breath. Deep breath in, filling the belly like a big balloon, into the hand on your belly. And on the exhalation, let the breath trickle down and out of the base into the seat. And then continue breathing in your own rhythm. And take a moment and notice how you're feeling right now. And then come back by opening your eyes and turn to the neighbor next to you and just share in 1 or 2 words how you're feeling right now.
Relaxed. Relaxed.
So what happens when we breathe into the belly? I heard here my neighbors say they feel more relaxed and we come more into ourselves. The third aspect has to do with becoming aware of energy, both in a subtle state as it is right now, sitting here, listening. We call that the non-aroused state of life force energy. And then, of course, life force energy gets aroused at times. It feels pleasurable, it feels exciting, all of that. So we want to become aware of that energy, both non-aroused and aroused, that runs through our body. Life force energy runs through us all the time, if we are aware of it or not. And the point here is that, as I said earlier, when we grow up and become adults, we become actually more blocked. For example, if someone feels sadness, prolonged sadness, the heart center may get more constricted, both physically, which can actually, go into a heart attack at some point later on, or just like that heaviness in the heart. Or, I'm always busy in my mind, preoccupied. So that is what we call, constriction. The energy, the life force energy, cannot flow as easily through us as it's meant to be. So we want to clear that channel. We also want to clear that sexual center, because life force energy emanates from the spine, the base of the spine, and moves up and down again. So if I'm constricted in my sexual center, as Freddy mentioned, fear, guilt, shame, embarrassment, then the energy cannot move through me and imbue my being, my physical health, my emotional well-being, and my spiritual being. So this is why it's so essential to actually go there. And we call this the last frontier, because over the last, I would say, 40 years, with therapy, we opened up more to our emotional self. With spiritual centers like this one around the country and in the Western world, we have gotten more connected to our spiritual being. Meditation is much more well known than it used to be in the early 20th century. So we have cleared more in the upper centers. And now we want to clear that first and second center so that we can use that energy to imbue our love and our divine self.
Yeah, I just want to add that, this again, energy is primordial, it's essential. Without it, we wouldn't be here. And yet there's such vilification and unconsciousness still that when Elsbeth says that this is the last frontier, if we're to make that spiritual quantum leap to seeing ourselves and each other, this is the energy we've got to start bringing some consciousness to. And again, we could teach this to nuns and priests, or if someone was vowed to celibacy, or if you're in a relationship, or if you're in an open relationship, whatever it might be, getting this energy in a way that invitalizes other aspects of your life. Now, there are practices that we teach that will certainly enhance your lovemaking with each other, your partner, and yet there are self-love practices and consciousness practices working with your energy. And again, it's unaroused forms and aroused forms that shift the way you listen, the way you are with people and in your life. We were recently invited to teach in Paris about 3 weeks ago with a group of executives, high-level CEOs from all over the world. And we were doing these exercises and teaching them these practices. Now, Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich wrote a little bit about this in his book. So this information has been around. What we do is really a rediscovery for people. It's sharing practices that now, oh, I remember this place. But one of the CEOs was like, well, what does this have to do with business and the ROI, the return on investment, the bottom line? So I mentioned that Branson, who is the owner and creator of Virgin Airlines, recently put out a memo that all of his employees all over the world, 4,000, however many are, could take a vacation whenever they want it for as long as they want it. Now, on the surface, a CEO might go, well, that's going to just ruin my business. I'm never going to have any employees here. But what it's turned out is the employees are much more empowered. They feel much more respected. They're very judicious with the time off that they take. And now he has employees that work 70 and 80%, not 40%. Oh, I hate my job, 30 more years of retirement. So it's like him seeing what he wants and treating others the way he wants to be treated. But this is the essence of this energy. I'm not saying we work with Richard Branson, but my point there is that as we get more connected with ourselves, we can get more connected with the other, because we're all connected. It's an interesting time in history when science and spirituality are saying the same thing, that we are one. The quantum physicists have a theory, it's called string theory, different from particle theory, and it states that every piece of physical matter is connected by string vibration. So those same hypothetical principles that exist at the subatomic level are replete through this dimension all the way up through the ad infinitum of the cosmos. And I know when I'm connected with myself, I can more easily connect with another. So when we use these practices to connect with ourselves, we communicate better with our children, with our coworkers, with our neighbors, with ourselves. We don't often buy into the story that doesn't feel good. Oh, well, I hate my job, 30 more years of retirement, or disempowered about this or that. We can move more quickly back to this feeling of connection and groundedness. So that's really the grassroots, bottom line, real world, boots on the ground results of what these practices are doing for me and for people, thousands of people who have been doing this work. So I hope you get the book. Again, the donations go to the sanctuary, to what you're doing here, and you'll learn a lot. So again, thanks for your attention.
Well, that's a lot of information. Wow.
You must have had something to say. So.
I'm telling you. And now I don't know if I'm more uptight about sexuality or our staff coming to me saying I want an unlimited vacation. So, woo! So thank you for the growth. We have time for one more question. Thank you for sharing so much.
Thanks.
And when I've heard your story before about when you were a young man and your dad really welcoming you into your sexual nature into life. And I thought, wow, what a way to enter into puberty, into young adulthood. And I know something about yours also, Elsbeth. Could you share your introduction into your sexuality and how your family viewed it?
Yes, I would have wished to have had a dad who would have given me a book on sex consciousness when I was 15 years old, but it was far from it. As you can tell by my accent, I didn't grow up here. I'm from New Jersey. So I came to this country from Germany when I was 29 years old, and I just felt when I started dating men again, that I was in this place where I was quite dissatisfied. If we look at masculine sexual energy, it rises quickly, gets easily excited, and drops quickly. Feminine energy, on the other hand, rises slowly, hanging out there, and if it's reawakened, it actually can come up to a plateau and can sustain for a long time, have multiple orgasms. So this is where I found myself. He came and went.
Literally and figuratively.
While I was hanging out there. And at that time, in my dissatisfaction, I had a woman friend who gave me a book, finally, not when I was 15, but when I was 31, which is called The Tao of Sex. So our work is based on ancient wisdom traditions. One comes from Taoism, the Tao of Sex, which comes from the Chinese tradition, and then Tantra, which comes from the East Indian tradition. And they both subscribe to the same principles, are somewhat different in approach, but same principles, which have to do with, as we said earlier, connecting with our life force energy and learning to channel and circulate life force energy. So for the men to learn not to spill his energy every time when he is in his pleasure state, because it's a huge depletion of life force energy. Now, we don't say to never ejaculate, however, that the man has a choice so that he can meet his partner on the plateau and breathe with her and circulate, or with him. These practices apply to heterosexual and same-sex couples equally. And for the woman to reawaken her energy and to be in her flow. For the woman, it's not about sustaining energy, it's about reawakening, because once the energy is awakened, it can just go on, and you know.
Yeah, one of the primary edicts in all of the practices of variations of Tantra that there are is for the man to learn to separate ejaculation from orgasm, and not so much necessarily to be a better lover, though that can be a byproduct, but for the man it begins to bring consciousness to this unconsciousness aspect of our being. From day one, it's like, look, Ma, no hands, you know, and we're run by the little head our whole life. So in bringing consciousness to this area of unconsciousness, we start to transcend some of the lust, the selfish love, a lot of the addictions to, a lot of sexual addiction, a lot of addictions to manipulation, control, jealousy, a lot of those things we get to look at when we bring consciousness to this aspect of our being. So it's really wonderful in terms of how that can affect how we are in our relationships.
Yeah, and with respect to the workshop, we just go a little bit deeper into that, and you will learn a practice for both men and women, how to connect with their energy, with their, energy that resides in the pelvic floor, and move it up through your body. Freddy Santal will speak about the practice for the men to actually cultivate the sustaining, the moving of his wonderful masculine testosterone energy. Also for men who may be growing older and perhaps not have as much energy anymore, how to reconnect with that energy on a visceral and imbuing level. And for the women, I will speak about the healing around our sacred space that has been so vilified in many ways, like sexual feminine energy vilified for millennia, that we now can come into our sacred space as the source, the resource of our feminine self and power.
Well, thank you so much. You've enlightened me as to how much work I have to do in this lifetime. I hope the next 20 or 25 years are long enough.
You're doing great, Rob.
Thank you. And we need to conclude this now, as we need to continue with the service. But I look forward to hearing more from you at the workshop and chatting with you out at the book signing and book sale. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.